The universal one was originally published in 1927 and distributed to the top scientists in the country. It is being republished at this crucial period for the sole purpose of again releasing vital new scientific knowledge to this new age of new comprehension. Today, the whole world is in a state of chaos, fighting against the forces of greed, envy, jealousy, and fear. Disharmony is rife. All of our human relations are in a state of violent upheaval. Civilization is in reverse. Science is being used to destroy instead of to build. We talk of world peace, yet those who are to plan the new world do not know the answer, the solution. Present knowledge of man's relation to nature and natural law, which controls his human relations, is, as yet, inadequate to meet the situation. Man is still too near his jungle to either know the law which inexorably governs his every action and that of everything in nature, or to comprehend that he must obey nature or be self-destroyed. Still dominated by jungle habits, he settles his human relations by jungle methods. Wars and world chaos will continue until new knowledge applicable to the coming new cycle in man's evolution is acquired by him. What is this new knowledge? A consistent cosmogony is sorely needed for this newly dawning day of man's exaltation which is to come. Walter Russel spent a full 7 years in writing this book. When it was first published in 1927, it won more condemnation than favor from a world which was not then as ready for it as now. The book mixed science and metaphysics in a manner which nullified its impression upon physicists. Gradually, however, many of its then radical statements have been verified by some of the world's greatest scientists and have won him many followers. The physicist draws a sharp line between things which he can in some way detect by the evidence of his senses and things which lie beyond that evidence. There is no denial of a something beyond the range of his senses and his sensed instruments, but what may be there is conjectural and therefore inadmissible as scientific data of a reliable nature. In other words, material evidence which lies within the narrow limits of man's sense range is the only admissible evidence to science. But what about that vast range which will not respond to our sense bodies and sensed instruments? Down the ages, a rare few have been permitted to sever the senses which connect matter with its motivated source in the consciousness of universal mind. These few have become conscious of the cosmos and have tried to tell the world of its simplicity. Each of these has faced an impossible task. The generalities and symbols which they did set down have been discounted and relegated to poetry or metaphysics or mysticism. Walter Russel had this same sad experience in the beginning, and all this in face of the fact that the mental state of cosmic consciousness is today admitted and desired by the greatest of the world's thinkers, although it is little understood and impossible to induce. In the month of May of 1921, the Universal One illumined my beloved husband with the cosmic knowledge contained in his immortal The Divine Iliad asterisk, and commanded him to give this new scientific knowledge to aid mankind in his unfolding into a cosmic age of awareness wherein man could become knowing man instead of sensing man. Just as the bolometer and negative have reached beyond man's visible spectrum into the heretofore unseen, so can man's increasing awareness of his relation to the source make it possible for him to reach deeper and deeper into the invisible and unseen. Such a consciousness can perceive there with other eyes that which the senses of man have no way of perceiving. For centuries, science has been searching for the why of things in matter and does not seem to realize that the why is not in matter at all, nor in space. Space is as much matter as planets are, but of an opposite form, potential, and purpose. There is something beyond the matter of galaxies and space which the senses cannot fathom, but the consciousness can. Beyond that range lies the cause of it, the why of it. In trying to awaken within man an awareness of the source of all science and philosophy by knowing God's ways sufficiently to make them man's ways, Walter Russell has pictured the orderliness, the symmetry, and the balance which all nature expresses. He explains how nature perpetually polarizes and depolarizes in its every expression, just as you do in your every action and in every second of your life in your breathing, but you are not aware of it. The fulcrum from which all power springs is knowledge. When man has that omniscience which is unfolding in cosmic man, he will no longer misuse, break, or disobey God's law because of being unaware of it. He will command it because he will know the law. The life and death cycles of man and of the elements of matter do not vary. They are the same, for man's body is a compound of these elements. The late Dr. Francis Trevelyan Miller, Lit. D. LL.D., Historical Foundations, New York, wrote of Walter Russell's contributions to science as follows: "You have opened the door into the infinite. Science must enter. It may hesitate, it may engage in controversy, but it cannot afford to ignore the principles you have established, which eventually will revolutionize man's concept of himself, his world, his universe, and his human problems. You have done for us in this 20th century what Ptolemy, Euclid, Copernicus, Galileo, Kepler did for their earlier centuries, but you have further penetrated all physical barriers and extended your discoveries into definite forms of the infinite law which created our universe and keeps it in operation with mathematical precision through the millions of years." Sir Oliver Lodge once said that the physicist's type of mind could never fathom the mystery of the universe, and the great story, if it ever came at all, must be the great inspiration of some poet, painter, philosopher, or saint. Less than 200 geniuses have appeared among men since the beginning of man, and not more than 4 or 5 highly illumined mystics. To these we owe what culture the world possesses today, yet our whole educational system is opposing their development, and our society as a whole is more apt to demean than to glorify them. It is most unfortunate that humans do not realize this sorry fact, for as long as man neglects to honor his geniuses who are engaged in the arts of peace and glorifies his heroes who are most proficient in the arts of war, the human race will continue to suffer the agonies of its own making. This now ending barbaric age is peopled with God-fearing men. The dawning cosmic age is being peopled with God-loving men. The coming race of men will know that love is all there is in God nature, and that the manifestation of love is all there is in the physical universe. The law of love is rhythmic, balanced interchange between all things. Upon the law of balanced interchange, this entire reciprocal universe is motivated with such exactness of balance that astronomers can calculate the positions of planets and suns to the split second. In this wise, the universe is dependable. It observes the law. It cannot do otherwise where God controls all things. In the beginning, God. There is but one God. There is but one universe. God is the universe. God is not one, and the universe another. The universe is not a separate creation of God's. It is God. There is no created universe. Nothing is which has not always been. All created things are from the beginning. They have no beginning. They do not come into being. They are and always have been and always will be. Creation means to man the coming into existence of something which was not before in existence. Man's concept of creation is the coming into being of a physical, visible universe heretofore non-existent. The Creator is to man's mind a sublime being, separate and apart from man, who created the physical universe of matter, causing to come into being that which had not been. Man holds the concept of 2 universes, a spiritual and a physical. God is presumed to be of the spiritual universe, perfect. Matter is of the physical universe. Imperfect. God supposedly created the imperfect physical universe separate and apart from himself. Man conceives a perfect and omnipotent God. A perfect and omnipotent God could not create imperfection. He could not create a lesser than himself. He could not create a greater than himself. God could not create other than himself. God did not create other than himself, nor greater nor lesser than himself. In the sense generally understood by man, God did not create anything. Nothing has been created. This is a creating universe, not a created one. Man's concept of the sublime being as the creator of a material universe different in substance from the spiritual universe is a misconcept. God is all there is. Beyond God, there is nothing. Superior to God, there is nothing. Inferior to God, there is nothing. Opposed to God, there is nothing. Creation is not more, nor is it less than it has always been from the beginning. It cannot be more than God, nor can it be less than God. Creation is an apparent integration in continuity of that which already exists in substance. It is a periodic change of state of the one, unchanging substance. It is evolution. Decreation is an apparent disintegration in continuity of apparently integrated things returned to that substance. It is dissolution. God is in reality and exists in substance. God is thinking mind. The substance, or body of God, is light. The one universal substance, which is God, is a tangible substance, a thinking substance, comprehensible and describable and possessed of principles which are familiar to man through man's observation of the one universal substance in created things. The substance of all created things is light. The one substance of thinking mind is all that exists. The created universe is the registration in matter of the idea of thinking mind. Mind is expressed in light. Light is the storehouse of the energy of thinking mind. The energy of the universe is the energy of thinking mind. The universe is a universe of energy. Energy is expressed in light. Mind is the universe. Mind substance is spiritual substance. Spirit is light. Spirit is the ultimate, the eternal though finite substance. Spirit is not infinite. Nothing in this universe of motion is infinite. Man's concept of an infinite God, possessing infinite knowledge and infinite power, creator of an infinite universe of infinite extension, is not in accord with the laws of motion. This is a boundless, eternal, dimensionless universe of definite limitations, both as to all cause and to all effects of cause. Dimension is an illusion of relation of effects which are in themselves but illusions. All cause is comprehensible to, and all effects are measurable by man. A limited, measurable universe cannot be infinite, and a divinity limited as to his range of cause, which, ipso facto, limits the possible range of effect, cannot be infinite. Light is the living substance of mind in action. It is the creating principle of the one substance. The one substance is the etheric, spiritual substance of the one universal mind. The entire created universe of all that is, ever has been, or ever will be, is but the one substance in motion, light. God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. John I 5. Matter is light. God and matter are one. Spirit and matter are the same substance. That substance is light. There are not two substances in the universe. There cannot be two substances in the universe. The substance of the universal mind is a living substance. That which man calls life is an inherent property of the entirety of mind. Light is life. There is but one life in the universe. The whole of the universe is but one living, breathing, pulsing being. There are not two lives or two living beings in the universe. There are not two of anything in the universe. The universe and all that is one. In the beginning, God. There is but one God. There is but one universe. God is the universe. God is not one, and the universe another. The universe is not a separate creation of God's. It is God. There is no created universe. Nothing is which has not always been. All created things are from the beginning. They have no beginning. They do not come into being. They are and always have been and always will be. Creation means to man the coming into existence of something which was not before in existence. Man's concept of creation is the coming into being of a physical, visible universe heretofore non-existent. The Creator is to man's mind a sublime being, separate and apart from man, who created the physical universe of matter, causing to come into being that which had not been. Man holds the concept of two universes, a spiritual and a physical. God is presumed to be of the spiritual universe perfect. Matter is of the physical universe imperfect. God supposedly created the imperfect physical universe separate and apart from himself. Man conceives a perfect and omnipotent God. A perfect and omnipotent God could not create imperfection. He could not create a lesser than himself. He could not create a greater than himself. God could not create other than himself. God did not create other than himself, nor greater, nor lesser than himself. In the sense generally understood by man, God did not create anything. Nothing has been created. This is a creating universe, not a created one. Man's concept of the sublime being as the creator of a material universe different in substance from the spiritual universe is a misconcept. God is all there is. Beyond God, there is nothing. Superior to God, there is nothing. Inferior to God, there is nothing. Opposed to God, there is nothing. Creation is not more, nor is it less than it has always been from the beginning. It cannot be more than God, nor can it be less than God. Creation is an apparent integration in continuity of that which already exists in substance. It is a periodic change of state of the one unchanging substance. It is evolution. Decreation is an apparent disintegration in continuity of apparently integrated things returned to that substance. It is dissolution. God is in reality and exists in substance. God is thinking mind. The substance or body of God is light. The one universal substance, which is God, is a tangible. Life is the pulsing, electromagnetic oscillation of thinking mind. All life is immortal life. There is no mortal life. Life is a vitalizing property of all matter. Life is in and of all matter. Man's concept of life is not logical. Man conceives life to be a property apart from matter, quickening compound elements of inorganic matter into living, functioning, organic beings. Man defines organic matter as that in which life begins to function, imbuing it with vitality and intelligence. Man defines inorganic matter as those elements or compounds of matter in which there is no life and in which there is no vitality nor intelligence. Man conceives life as spontaneously generated in matter at favorable temperatures and under favorable conditions. Such concepts are not true concepts. In searching for the life principle, man is attempting to discover something corresponding to a germ which quickens lifeless matter. Life is not a germ, and no matter is lifeless. Life is in and of all things from the beginning, always and forever. Life has no beginning. Life has no ending. Life is eternal. Life is in and of all inorganic as well as all organic matter. Life is in and of all of the elements and the atoms of the elements and the compounds of the elements. Life is in and of the sun of the atom, the planets of the atom, and the heavens surrounding the universe of the atom. Life is the effect produced on the substance of mind by the sequence of alternating electromagnetic pulsations which constitute the process of thinking. The progress of this effect is registered in integrating light and manifests itself in that orderly periodic phenomenon inherent in all matter and all things which man calls growth. All growing things are imbued with the life principle. All things are growing things. All matter is evolving. All matter is growing. All matter is living. Life is merely the registration in matter of states of motion of thinking mind. The substance of mind has the appearance of many states of motion, which man calls the elements of matter. The elements of matter do not vary in substance, they vary only in their states of motion. All motion is periodic and evolutionary. All motion is motion in equilibrium. No other motion is possible. All motion has the appearance of being divided into opposites. These opposites of motion shall henceforth be termed motion in inertia and motion in opposition. All that appearance which man calls matter is motion in opposition. Motion in opposition is under either preponderantly electric or magnetic domination. It is a state of motion where pressures are unequalized and sustained in their state of unequalization by the resistance of the two opposing forces in motion. The point of maximum motion in opposition is the nucleal center of a unit or system where opposing pressures reach their point of maximum pressure. Form of matter disappears into motion in inertia. Motion in inertia is equally electric and magnetic. Neither force dominates. It is a state of motion where pressures are equalized. Man's concept of life is energized, organic substance. Man's concept of death is de-energized, organic substance. There is no death. Life is eternal. The one substance of the universe cannot become de-energized. Man's concept of life belongs to motion in opposition. Man's concept of death belongs to motion in inertia. Life belongs, in principle, to motion. This is a universe of motion. The cause of all motion is the dynamic action of thinking of the one universal living being, which man calls God or mind, or by other names, all of which stand practically for the one idea of fatherhood or deity. Thinking is a process, an orderly, evolutionary, periodic process of absolute limitations. All motion of thinking mind is born in the maximum high speed of the universal constant of energy. It runs the gamut of periodic and opposing deceleration and acceleration in 6 full tones, 1 double tone, and a master tone to each of 10 lowering octaves, and a variable number of midtones in each of the last 4 octaves. The 7 tones are those so-called elements of matter, which are improperly classified in the 8 groups of the commonly accepted Mendeleev periodic table. All effects of motion which cause the appearance of these elements is that which is herein termed motion in opposition. The master tone of each octave is the record of all motion taking place within the octave. The master tones are the turning points between reaction and action, just as the double tones are the turning points between action and reaction. They are the beginnings of each new expression of energy in motion and are records of the old. They are the ends of exhalations and the beginnings of inhalations. The master time of each octave is the inheritance of the original motion of the thinking process of mind. These master tones are the inert gases, which are classified in the 0 group of the Mendeleev table. The state of motion of these inert gases is that of motion in inertia. Motion in inertia is that state of pressure equilibrium which lies between any 2 masses. The inertial line, or plane, is that dividing line, or plane, toward which all masses discharge their potential. It is the line, or plane, of lowest potential of 2 opposing areas of potential, where opposing pressures neutralize. This is the plane of minimum pressure of 2 opposing areas. The master tones, which represent a state of motion in inertia and are the inert gases, bear the same relationship to the elements that white bears to the colors. They are a registration of them all. White is not included in the spectrum, it has no place there. The inert gases should not be included in the elements. They have no place there. Of this more shall be written later in its proper place. The 10 octaves constitute a cycle of evolving states of motion. This cycle includes the uttermost limitations of divine possibilities, and beyond it nothing is or can be. The cycle begins with the highest note and descends the scale sequentially through man's unseen universe until hydrogen, the first element perceivable to man, is reached. There is no unseen universe. Those tones which follow hydrogen are man's visible or physical universe of matter and continue into the 10th octave. Here, elemental integration and disintegration have ended the cycle by the attainment of the equilibrium of its beginning. All motion is oscillatory, swinging in sequence between two apparently opposing forces, gravitation and repulsion, which are respectively electric and magnetic. This oscillatory motion is a pulsating inbreathing and outbreathing, an inhalation and an exhalation, which is a characteristic of all matter, whether it be in units or systems of units or mass. These two apparently opposite forces are the father-mother forces of mind, which added together make but the one force. There is but one pendulum to the cosmic clock. All the so-called created universe of matter is but the effect of these two apparently opposing female forces exerting their opposition. All motion in opposition is both gravitative and repulsive. This is characteristic of all matter. Motion at the inertial line or plane where mass disappears is neither gravitative nor repellative. Hence, the mutatones, which register effects of motion on this line or plane, should not be included in the table of the elements. All matter is characterized by periodic and alternating opposites of motion in sequence, each opposite being preponderant in sequence. Each opposite force is the cause of the other. Opposition is a characteristic appearance of all effects of motion and has no existence other than as an appearance. In inertia, this appearance always disappears. Motion and matter must not be confounded. Matter, as man understands matter, is only an appearance due to states of motion. The creation of form in matter is the apparent integration of those things which are and always have been. The decreation of form in matter is the apparent disintegration of apparently integrated things. Creation is transmutation or integration of the one simple indivisible substance into the appearance of many complex substances and things. Creation may be likened unto the assembling of a few letters of type for the printing of a very complex idea. Decreation may be likened unto the redistribution of type, after it has served its purpose of giving expression to idea on the printed page. Matter is light crystallized into the complex idea of this universe, exactly as literature is type assembled into the complex ideas of a library. Matter is the registration medium of light, just as letters are the registration medium of literature. Matter is light gravitationally assembled into the appearance of form and radially disassembled into the disappearance of form. The assembling process is what man calls life. The disassembling process is what man calls death. Light exists as light always and forever. All matter is but a variation of the state of light due to variation of dimension of the evidence of motion in the wave by which all motion is expressed. To man, matter means the complexity of many substances and many things. Complexity and variability belong to motion and not to substance. There is but one unchanging substance. The appearance of change does not belong to substance, but to motion. Man lives in a universe of motion, a universe of appearances and illusions which deceive him, except for those simple, obvious illusions with which he becomes perfectly familiar. Man will stoutly aver that matter changes and that there are many substances, but he would not dream of contending that the moon runs along the road behind the trees as he runs. Yet one contention would be as reasonable as the other. Matter and mind and light and energy are eternal. They are constant. They are cause. Form and motion are illusions. They are fleeting. They are effects. Mind is the universe. It is all that is, ever was, or ever will be. Mind is a substance, a material substance. The substance of mind is the foundation of creation. It is the seed of the universe. In the seed of the universe is the whole of the universe. The substance of universal mind has no beginning, no ending, and no bounds. It is all intelligent, all-powerful, and all-present. The one substance is absolutely frictionless, temperatureless, non-compressible, non-expandable, non-absorbent, non-reflectant, non-resistant, and non-refractive. But potentially, it contains the appearance of all these qualities through the dynamic action of those opposing forces within it, which cause it to be a thinking substance in motion. These qualities belong to motion and appear only through motion in opposition. They are not qualities which belong to the one substance. They are appearances which disappear in the inertial plane of pressure equilibrium which lies between any two masses. Hence they have no existence other than as an appearance of existence. The cause of the appearance of change of the one substance is through change of state, but change of state is not change of substance. Change of state is not an attribute of substance. It belongs to motion. It is an illusion of motion which creates the illusion of dimension. The substance of mind is the one pre-chemical substance, which is the source of all the elements and the compounds of the elements, all of which are but appearances. These appearances register the action of the process of thinking and disappear back into their source of an absolute temperatureless state of motion in inertia. The material substance of mind is an all-pervading ether which is indivisible, inseparable, indestructible, unalterable, and unchangeable. But potentially, it contains the appearance of all these dimensions of separability in the states of motion which register the dynamic process of thinking. The words spirit and ether are used to express the tenuity of the dimensionless universe, as solidity is used to express the compactness of the apparently measurable universe. States of motion in opposition cause the appearance of change from the state of motion in non-opposition or inertia into the appearance of separability into parts. This results in such effects of motion as heat, cold, color, form, sex, growth, valence, ionization, mass, gravity, radiation, and many others. These effects are not a change of substance, nor do they divide, alter, or separate the one substance of mind. They are but dimensions. All effects have the appearance of dimension. They are in themselves but dimensions of that which they appear to be. The cause of all effects is dimensionless. Cause is existent. Effect is an illusion of existence. It but appears to exist. Change of state appears to change the character of. One universal mind is a formless, thinking substance. If the one substance were not a thinking substance, that which man calls creation would not have been. That which man calls God is an ecstatic thinking substance, thinking in continuity, thinking rhythmically, thinking with orderly variation of intensity in measurable impulses throughout endless ages, in endless space. Thinking is an action which is the cause of all motion. It is a process, a purely mechanical process, periodic in its evolution through one cycle after another, without end. The process of thinking leaves the evidence of that process behind it, registering the effect of its passage through the ocean of the universal mind. In its wake are myriads of rotating particles of the one substance which register the thinking of mind, just as in the wake of an ocean steamer are myriads of tiny rotating bubbles which register the passage of that steamer. The many bubbles in the wake of the steamer produce an effect of foam in the ocean's substance, which appears to be different from the surrounding substance. It is the same substance but of less stability. The whirling bubbles of foam owe their appearance of stability to motion. When the motion ceases, the bubbles will disappear. The wake of the steamer is an appearance which we know will disappear. It has no stability, it has only an appearance of stability. The bubbles are apparently separate individuals possessing form and motion, which are apparently their own, but which we know are not their own. Their appearance of separateness, we know, is but an illusion due to force and motion. When the churning effect of the propeller has been dissipated, foam, bubbles, wake, and all will disappear into the mighty ocean of which they are a part and from which they have never been separated. The passage of all thought through the tranquil ocean of universal mind may well be likened unto the passage of big boats and little boats and all the winds of heaven upon the tranquil ocean of waters. The passage of all these forces leave their effects in appearance upon the ocean of waters, registering thereon in foam the idea of those forces. Without the exertion of these forces upon the tranquil waters, an absolute uniformity of appearance would prevail throughout the ocean of waters. Without the force of thinking throughout the tranquil substance of mind, there would be no appearance of variability whatsoever in the universe of mind. There would be no form. The distinct spiral nebula of Perseus, or the trail of the Milky Way looming against the ocean of mind, is exactly analogous to the foamy wake of a steamer as viewed from a great height. Both the wake of the steamer and the nebula of Perseus are appearances due to the passage of ponderous ideas, and both will disappear back into the substance of which they are a part. The myriad whirling spheres of the nebula, its integrating suns and solar system, its planets and moons, its asteroids and meteorites, are all whirling forms born of the churning propeller of the one mind, thinking out this universe of ours. Similarly, the whirling spheres of the steamer's wake, with its big bubbles, its lesser bubbles, and its milky foam, are a line of white against the deep blue sea, but not separate from the sea in substance. The temperature in the wake of the steamer is higher than that of the surrounding water. Similarly, the temperature of the spiral nebula is higher than that of the surrounding ether matter because of the heat energy generated by thinking and transferred to the whirling spheres. The law governing both bubbles and nebula is the same. The difference between them is only relative in point of time. Both disappear when they cease to whirl, for their appearance of existence is due solely to the heat energy of motion. A bubble may whirl for a few moments and a sun for 100 billion years before their generated heat becomes radiated into their father-mother substance which gave them birth. The difference in time is but relative, for time is nothing in eternity. When the bubbles have radiated their heat to the temperature of the surrounding water, they cease all appearance of individual existence. Their forms have disappeared with cessation of motion, but their substance is as existent as the ocean is existent. When giant suns have radiated their heat to the absolute zero of the surrounding ether substance of mind, they cease all appearance of individual existence. Their forms have disappeared with the cessation of motion, but their substance is as eternal as mind is eternal. The process of thinking is a simple one. It is a swing of the cosmic pendulum from the stability of mind substance to apparent instability and back again to stability. The registration of this effect in the ocean of universal mind is contained within the form of an elongated sphere, and all its variability and complexity may be read upon two exactly opposite spiral waves within two halves of that sphere. Light, heat, electricity, magnetism, form, crystallization, sound, mass, the elements and compounds of elements, time, space, attraction, gravitation, force, energy, inertia, sex, life, death, sleep, memory, the souls of all things, and the complex ideas of all things. In fact, all that man can comprehend of this universe can be spelled out in their beginnings on these two opposing spiral waves within one sphere, and on through to their endings in 9 other increasingly larger though flattening spheres or ellipsoids. These two opposing spiral waves within one sphere represent the entire simple process of thinking, but not the entire variability of the effect of thinking. They represent the beginning or highest octave in the cycle of thinking, of which there are 10. The simple process of thinking is repeated exactly in the 10 octaves, but with periodic variability and complexity of registered effect. All variability and complexity of registered effect is orderly in variation and complication, and thus are all effects comprehensible to that man who has knowledge of the cause of those effects. Everywhere throughout its entirety, the mind substance is in constant agitation, undergoing the orderly process of thinking. The force called thinking, which impels mind into concentration and decentration in sequence, is the only energy of the universe. There is no other energy. The universe is mind only. The universal constant of energy registers in the substance of mind the illusions caused by the thinking of mind. Every microscopic point in divine mind becomes the center of the universe of mind, with its first impulse of the act of thinking. For with this first impulse is form born into a universe which is without form. From that center, the explosive reactive genera-radiative electromagnetic disturbance, which constitutes the process of thinking, reproduces itself throughout the entirety of the universe at incomprehensible speed in waves of creating light units, which waves return again to that exact center. Thinking is an action, followed by a reaction of that action. The action of thinking constitutes a series of events in sequence. The intervals between events in sequence constitute that effect of motion called time. Without a sequence of events, time could not be, for there would be nothing to mark time. Time begins with the action of thinking. It is an effect which appears with motion in opposition and disappears into motion in inertia. The events in sequence which give birth to that appearance called time are the opposing pulsations of generative and radiative light. These opposing pulsations give dimension and form to that which man calls life. To man, there is no life without form. Form and dimension are fleeting. Life is eternal. Life is merely the action of thinking, and thinking is as eternal as the thinking substance of mind is eternal. Universal thinking is rhythmic thinking. The entire substance of universal mind is thinking in varying but orderly rhythmic meter. The meter of universal thinking is measurable in its orderliness throughout the entirety of the universal substance. The tempo of the cosmic, rhythmic meter of thinking is absolute. All thinking is expressed in measurable and opposing impulses of opposing motion. All motion is action and reaction.